Question 1. Examination of the data shows that the current production line at a Greg's bakery is experiencing significant delays during peak hours, leading to a backlog of orders and customer complaints. The operations manager is considering several approaches to address this issue. Which of the following approaches best balances efficiency gains with regulatory and ethical considerations for Greg's? Option A. Reducing the number of quality checks performed on finished products to speed up the dispatch process. Option B. Introducing a new, faster piece of machinery without fully assessing its integration into the existing workflow or its impact on staff training and safety protocols. Option C. Implementing a phased redesign of the production workflow, involving detailed analysis of each step, staff consultation, and pilot testing of new procedures to ensure quality and safety are maintained while increasing throughput. Option D. Mandating longer working hours for existing staff, without providing additional support or reviewing workload distribution to meet demand. Correct answer is C. Implementing a phased redesign of the production workflow, involving detailed analysis of each step, staff consultation, and pilot testing of new procedures to ensure quality and safety are maintained while increasing throughput. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing operational efficiency with adherence to regulatory requirements and ethical considerations within the context of Greg's business operations. A hasty decision without proper consideration of the implications could lead to non-compliance, reputational damage, and potential financial penalties. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any process optimization aligns with the company's commitment to quality, customer service, and legal obligations. The correct approach involves a systematic review and potential redesign of the bakery's production workflow to identify and eliminate inefficiencies, thereby improving output and reducing waste. This aligns with the principles of good business practice and regulatory compliance by ensuring that Greg's operates effectively and responsibly. Specifically, it adheres to the spirit of any relevant UK food safety regulations, e.g., Food Safety Act 1990, retained EU law as it applies in the UK, which implicitly require efficient and controlled processes to maintain hygiene and product quality. It also supports the company's internal policies and ethical commitment to providing high-quality products to customers in a timely manner. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on increasing production speed without considering the impact on quality control would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to a decline in product standards, increased risk of contamination, and potential breaches of food safety regulations. Another incorrect approach, which involves cutting corners on staff training or supervision to save costs during optimization, would also be ethically and regulatorily unsound. This could result in errors, accidents, and a failure to meet the required standards of care, potentially violating health and safety legislation and Greg's duty of care to its employees and customers. A third incorrect approach, which involves ignoring feedback from staff regarding potential process bottlenecks or safety concerns, demonstrates a disregard for employee welfare and operational realities, potentially leading to a less effective and more hazardous working environment, and failing to uphold the principles of a responsible employer. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that prioritizes a thorough understanding of current processes, identifies areas for improvement through data analysis and stakeholder consultation, evaluates potential solutions against regulatory requirements and ethical standards, and implements changes in a controlled and monitored manner. This involves risk assessment, impact analysis, and continuous improvement cycles. Question 2. Assessment of process optimization strategies for the sandwich preparation line at Greg's, considering the need to maintain food safety standards and customer service efficiency. Option A. Focus solely on reducing the time taken for each sandwich preparation, even if it means compromising on the visual presentation or ingredient distribution as outlined in Greg's standard recipes. Option B. Introduce new, unapproved ingredients or preparation methods to speed up the sandwich making process, assuming customers will not notice or mind. Option C. Conduct a thorough review of the current sandwich preparation process, identify potential inefficiencies, and then develop proposed optimizations that are rigorously assessed against Greg's food safety policies, operational guidelines, and customer service standards, seeking formal approval from the store manager and the quality assurance team before implementation. Option D. Propose and implement changes to the sandwich assembly sequence based on personal observation of workflow, without consulting Greg's operational policy manuals or seeking management approval. The correct answer is D. Propose and implement changes to the sandwich assembly sequence based on personal observation of workflow, without consulting Greg's operational policy manuals or seeking management approval. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a Greg's employee tasked with optimizing a process. The challenge lies in balancing efficiency gains with the absolute necessity of adhering to all relevant Greg's policies and regulatory frameworks, particularly those concerning food safety and customer service standards. A hasty or poorly considered optimization could inadvertently compromise these critical areas, leading to potential health risks, customer dissatisfaction, and regulatory breaches. Therefore, careful judgment and a thorough understanding of established procedures are paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing process, identifying potential bottlenecks or inefficiencies, and then proposing changes that are rigorously evaluated against Greg's established operational policies, food safety regulations, and customer service guidelines. This approach is correct because it prioritizes compliance and safety. By consulting existing policy documents and seeking approval from relevant supervisors or departments, such as quality assurance or operations management, the employee ensures that any proposed changes are not only efficient, but also legally sound and aligned with Greg's commitment to quality and customer experience. This proactive consultation prevents potential breaches of food safety legislation, e.g., Food Safety Act 1990 in the UK, and upholds Greg's internal service standards, thereby safeguarding the company's reputation and operational integrity. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing changes without consulting existing policies or seeking appropriate approval is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This could lead to violations of food safety regulations, such as improper handling or storage of ingredients, which could result in foodborne illnesses and legal penalties for Greg's. It also risks undermining customer service standards, potentially leading to negative customer experiences and damage to Greg's brand. Furthermore, bypassing established procedures demonstrates a lack of professional responsibility and disregard for the company's governance framework. Making changes based solely on personal observation or anecdotal evidence without a structured evaluation against policy is inherently risky and unprofessional. Professional reasoning. Professionals in a role like this at Greg's should adopt a structured decision-making process. This involves 1. Understanding the current process and its objectives. 2. Identifying areas for improvement with a focus on efficiency and quality. 3. Thoroughly researching and understanding all relevant Greg's policies and applicable regulations, e.g., food safety, health, and safety. 4. Proposing specific, well-defined changes. 5. Evaluating proposed changes against policies and regulations, considering potential risks and benefits. 6. Seeking formal approval from appropriate management or departments before implementation. 7. Monitoring the impact of implemented changes and making further adjustments as necessary, always within policy and regulatory boundaries. Question 3. Which approach would be most effective for a Greg's team member aiming to optimize the process of preparing and serving sandwiches during peak hours to improve efficiency and customer satisfaction? Option A. Implementing changes based on personal observations and immediate feedback from colleagues without formal data collection or management approval. Option B. Focusing solely on reducing the number of sandwich varieties offered to simplify preparation, without considering customer demand or impact on sales. Option C. Conducting a thorough review of the current sandwich preparation and serving workflow, gathering data on preparation times and customer wait times, soliciting input from the team, and proposing small, tested adjustments to management. Option D. Introducing entirely new equipment and preparation methods immediately to speed up the process, assuming it will be more efficient. The correct answer is A. Implementing changes based on personal observations and immediate feedback from colleagues without formal data collection or management approval. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for Greg's employees regarding the optimization of in-store processes, specifically the handling of customer orders and stock management. The challenge lies in balancing efficiency gains with maintaining the quality of service and adhering to company policies and regulatory guidelines, which are paramount in the food retail sector to ensure food safety, customer satisfaction, and operational integrity. Misjudgments can lead to customer complaints, stock wastage, or even breaches of food hygiene regulations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic review of current processes, identifying bottlenecks through direct observation and staff feedback, and then implementing small, iterative changes with clear performance metrics. This aligns with best practices in operational management and implicitly with the principles of good business conduct expected of Greg's employees. While specific Greg's internal policies are not provided, this method ensures that any process optimization is data-driven, minimizes disruption, and allows for continuous improvement, thereby upholding the company's reputation and operational standards. This approach fosters a culture of accountability and evidence-based decision-making, which is crucial for sustainable business operations. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing changes based solely on anecdotal evidence or personal preference without systematic review risks introducing new inefficiencies or overlooking critical operational aspects. This could lead to increased errors, customer dissatisfaction, and potential noncompliance with operational standards. Making significant changes without consulting relevant stakeholders, such as store management or colleagues directly involved in the process, can lead to resistance, lack of buy-in, and ultimately the failure of the optimization effort. Furthermore, prioritizing speed over accuracy or adherence to established procedures, especially in food handling, could inadvertently lead to breaches of food safety regulations or compromise product quality, which are non-negotiable aspects of operating a food business like Greg's. Professional reasoning. Professionals in a role like this at Greg's should adopt a structured problem-solving methodology. This involves clearly defining the problem, gathering relevant data, observations, staff input, performance metrics, brainstorming potential solutions, evaluating these solutions against defined criteria, efficiency, cost, compliance, customer impact, implementing the chosen solution in a controlled manner, and then monitoring and evaluating the results. This iterative and data-informed process ensures that decisions are sound, compliant, and contribute positively to the business objectives. Question 4. Implementation of a new automated ordering system at Greg's to streamline customer service and reduce queue times requires careful consideration of its impact on existing food preparation workflows and staff responsibilities. Which of the following represents the most professionally sound approach to integrating this new system? Option A. Prioritize rapid deployment of the automated system to immediately realize efficiency gains, with any workflow adjustments to be addressed reactively as issues arise. Option B. Implement the automated system with minimal disruption to current food preparation, assuming that staff will naturally adapt to any necessary changes in their roles and responsibilities. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive review of current food preparation processes, identify potential integration points and risks with the new system, and develop a phased implementation plan that includes staff training and compliance checks against food safety regulations. Option D. Focus on the cost savings associated with the automated system, implementing it in a way that minimizes initial investment in staff training or process reengineering, with the expectation that operational adjustments will be minimal. Correct answer is A. Prioritize rapid deployment of the automated system to immediately realize efficiency gains, with any workflow adjustments to be addressed reactively as issues arise. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing operational efficiency with regulatory compliance and ethical considerations within the specific context of Greg's operations. The need to optimize processes, such as food preparation and service, must not compromise the integrity of the food supply chain or customer safety, which are heavily regulated. Careful judgment is required to identify and implement changes that genuinely improve efficiency without introducing new risks or violating established standards. The correct approach involves a systematic review of existing processes, identifying bottlenecks or inefficiencies, and proposing solutions that are vetted for compliance with food safety regulations and internal Greg's policies. This includes considering the impact on staff training, equipment, and the customer experience. Regulatory justification stems from the Food Safety Act 1990 and associated regulations, which mandate that businesses ensure food is safe to eat and that processes are in place to prevent contamination. Ethical considerations include the responsibility to provide safe products to customers and to ensure fair working practices for employees involved in process changes. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without considering safety protocols would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to breaches of food safety regulations, potentially resulting in product recalls, damage to Greg's reputation, and harm to consumers. Another incorrect approach, such as implementing changes without adequate staff consultation or training, would be ethically problematic and could lead to operational errors, decreased staff morale, and non-compliance due to a lack of understanding of new procedures. A third incorrect approach, prioritizing cost reduction over essential safety measures, would also be a direct violation of regulatory requirements and ethical obligations. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that prioritizes a thorough risk assessment for any proposed process optimization. This involves consulting relevant regulations, seeking input from all affected stakeholders, including operational staff and compliance officers, and conducting pilot testing where feasible before full implementation. The ultimate goal is to achieve improvements that are sustainable, compliant, and ethically sound. Question 5. Quality control measures reveal a consistent deviation in the dough consistency for Greg's sausage rolls as specific production line, leading to a higher than acceptable rate of product rejection. This deviation is impacting production output and increasing waste. Option A. Conduct a disciplinary meeting with the production line staff responsible for dough preparation to address the quality lapse. Option B. Immediately increase the frequency of manual dough consistency checks by supervisors to identify affected batches for rejection. Option C. Implement a temporary adjustment to the dough recipe by adding a small percentage of a binding agent to compensate for the perceived inconsistency. Option D. Initiate a thorough root cause analysis of the dough consistency deviation, involving a review of ingredient sourcing, mixing procedures, environmental conditions, and equipment calibration, followed by the implementation of targeted corrective and preventative actions. The correct answer is D. Initiate a thorough root cause analysis of the dough consistency deviation, involving a review of ingredient sourcing, mixing procedures, environmental conditions, and equipment calibration, followed by the implementation of targeted corrective and preventative actions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing operational efficiency with adherence to regulatory standards and ethical conduct within the context of Greg's operations. The pressure to meet production targets can sometimes lead to shortcuts that compromise quality and safety, which are paramount in the food industry. Careful judgment is needed to identify and rectify process deviations without disrupting essential business functions. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented investigation into the root cause of the quality control failures. This aligns with the principles of good manufacturing practice, GMP, and food safety regulations, which mandate that any deviation from established standards must be thoroughly investigated, corrective actions implemented, and preventative measures put in place to avoid recurrence. This proactive and evidence-based approach ensures that Greg's maintains its commitment to product quality and consumer safety, thereby upholding its reputation and complying with relevant food safety legislation. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate corrective action without understanding the underlying cause risks addressing symptoms rather than the problem itself. This could lead to recurring quality issues and potential breaches of food safety regulations, as it fails to implement robust preventative controls. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over thoroughness, such as simply discarding the affected batch without investigation, misses a critical opportunity to identify systemic issues within the production process. This reactive measure, while seemingly addressing the immediate problem, does not contribute to long-term process improvement or regulatory compliance. A further incorrect approach that involves blaming individual staff members without a comprehensive process review fails to acknowledge that quality issues often stem from systemic factors, such as inadequate training, flawed procedures, or equipment malfunctions. This can create a negative work environment and does not effectively resolve the root cause of the problem, potentially leading to further compliance failures. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the problem, followed by a systematic investigation to identify the root cause. This should involve consulting relevant operational procedures, quality control data, and potentially engaging with production staff. The next step is to develop and implement corrective and preventative actions, COPPA, that are proportionate to the identified risks and aligned with regulatory requirements. Finally, a process for monitoring the effectiveness of these actions and continuous improvement should be established. Question 6. During the evaluation of potential process optimizations within Greg's bakery operations, which approach best balances the drive for efficiency with the absolute priority of maintaining stringent food safety standards and regulatory compliance? Option A. Implementing changes that demonstrably reduce production time and cost, with a review of food safety implications conducted only after the new processes are fully operational. Option B. Prioritizing the adoption of new technologies that promise significant efficiency gains, assuming that existing food safety protocols will automatically adapt. Option C. Conducting a comprehensive risk assessment of all proposed process changes specifically for their impact on food safety and hygiene, validating these against current UK food safety legislation and internal hack plans before phased implementation and ongoing monitoring. Option D. Focusing on streamlining workflows by reducing the number of quality checks, with the understanding that staff experience will compensate for any procedural gaps. The correct answer is A. Implementing changes that demonstrably reduce production time and cost, with a review of food safety implications conducted only after the new processes are fully operational. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because Greg's, as a food retailer, operates within a highly regulated environment concerning food safety and hygiene. Ensuring compliance is not merely a matter of operational efficiency, but a fundamental legal and ethical obligation to protect public health. The challenge lies in balancing the need for process optimization to improve efficiency and profitability with the absolute imperative of maintaining the highest standards of food safety, which are non-negotiable. Any deviation from established protocols, even if seemingly minor or intended to streamline operations, could have severe consequences, including regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and most importantly, harm to consumers. The correct approach involves a thorough risk assessment and a phased implementation of any process changes, with a strong emphasis on maintaining or enhancing existing food safety controls. This means that before any optimization is rolled out, its potential impact on hygiene, allergen control, temperature management, and cross-contamination risks must be meticulously evaluated. Any proposed changes must be validated against current UK food safety legislation, such as the Food Safety Act 1990 and associated regulations, as well as Greg's own internal food safety management system, likely based on hack principles. The focus should be on optimizing processes without compromising these critical safety standards. This demonstrates a commitment to both business objectives and public welfare, aligning with the ethical duty of care expected of food businesses. An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of implementation over safety validation would be professionally unacceptable. This failure would stem from a disregard for the potential for new processes to introduce or exacerbate food safety hazards, such as inadequate cleaning procedures or compromised temperature control, leading to a breach of legal obligations under food safety law. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on hygiene or ingredient integrity, would also be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This overlooks the fundamental requirement that all operational decisions must first and foremost safeguard the consumer. A third incorrect approach, implementing changes without adequate staff training on the new procedures and their safety implications, would create a high risk of human error, leading to potential breaches of food safety regulations and undermining the integrity of the entire process. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that places regulatory compliance and consumer safety at the forefront of any process optimization initiative. This involves a systematic approach. First, understanding the existing regulatory landscape and internal safety protocols. Second, identifying potential optimization opportunities. Third, conducting a rigorous risk assessment for each opportunity, specifically evaluating its impact on food safety. Fourth, consulting with food safety experts and relevant stakeholders. Fifth, piloting any approved changes under strict supervision. And finally, implementing and continuously monitoring the optimized processes to ensure ongoing compliance and safety. Question 7. Quality control measures reveal a recurring issue with the consistency of the filling in a popular Greggs pastry product. What is the most appropriate immediate next step for the Greggs production management team to take? Option A. Advise the sales team to inform customers that there may be variations in the pastry filling. Option B. Initiate a thorough investigation into the root cause of the filling inconsistency, involving relevant production staff and reviewing process documentation. Option C. Instruct the production line to temporarily adjust the filling quantity slightly in the hope that this resolves the issue. Option D. Postpone any further investigation until a significant number of customer complaints are received. The correct answer is B. Initiate a thorough investigation into the root cause of the filling inconsistency, involving relevant production staff and reviewing process documentation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for Greggs' management team as it directly impacts customer trust and regulatory compliance. The discovery of a recurring quality issue in a specific product line requires immediate and thorough investigation to prevent further breaches of food safety standards and potential reputational damage. The challenge lies in balancing the need for swift resolution with the imperative to adhere to established food safety protocols and internal quality assurance procedures. A hasty or incomplete response could lead to continued product defects, customer complaints, and potential enforcement action from regulatory bodies. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented investigation into the root cause of the quality defect. This entails engaging the relevant production team, reviewing manufacturing processes, and potentially conducting further testing or analysis of the affected product. The focus must be on identifying the precise reason for the deviation from quality standards, whether it be a raw material issue, a process parameter drift, or a human error. This methodical approach ensures that the corrective actions implemented are targeted and effective, thereby preventing recurrence. This aligns with the principles of good manufacturing practice and the regulatory expectation for businesses to maintain robust quality control systems to ensure product safety and compliance with relevant food safety legislation, such as the Food Safety Act 1990 and associated regulations in the UK. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing a superficial fix without understanding the root cause is an incorrect approach because it fails to address the underlying problem, leading to a high probability of the defect recurring. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the systematic approach required by food safety regulations. Ignoring the issue and hoping it resolves itself is a critically incorrect approach. This constitutes a failure to act on a known quality defect, which is a direct contravention of the duty of care owed to consumers and a breach of food safety legislation. It exposes Greggs to significant legal and reputational risks. Blaming individual staff members without a thorough investigation into systemic issues is also an incorrect approach. While individual accountability may be a factor, a comprehensive review of processes and training is essential to identify and rectify any contributing systemic failures. This approach can foster a negative work environment and fail to address the true root cause. Professional reasoning. Professionals at Greggs should adopt a structured problem-solving framework. This involves 1. Acknowledging and documenting the reported quality issue. 2. Initiating a formal investigation to identify the root cause, involving relevant stakeholders and adhering to established procedures. 3. Developing and implementing targeted corrective and preventative actions based on the investigation findings. 4. Verifying the effectiveness of the implemented actions through ongoing monitoring and review. 5. Documenting all steps taken for audit and compliance purposes. This systematic process ensures accountability, compliance with regulatory requirements, and the maintenance of product quality and customer safety. Question 8. Performance analysis shows that the speed of service at several Greggs bakery cafes has declined, leading to longer customer wait times and a potential impact on sales. A proposed solution is to reduce the number of quality checks performed on baked goods before they are displayed for sale, with the aim of speeding up the preparation and display process. Option A. Immediately implement a new, more complex ordering system that requires customers to pre-order items online to reduce in-store transaction times. Option B. Increase the number of staff on duty during peak hours without analyzing the underlying reasons for the service speed decline. Option C. Conduct a detailed review of the entire service process, from preparation to point of sale, to identify specific bottlenecks and inefficiencies that can be addressed without compromising product quality or safety standards. Option D. Implement the proposed reduction in quality checks, as the primary goal is to improve service speed and address the performance dip. The correct answer is D. Implement the proposed reduction in quality checks, as the primary goal is to improve service speed and address the performance dip. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing operational efficiency with adherence to regulatory requirements and ethical conduct within the specific context of Greg's operations. The pressure to improve performance can sometimes lead to shortcuts that might inadvertently breach established guidelines or compromise the integrity of processes. Careful judgment is required to identify sustainable improvements that align with both business objectives and regulatory compliance. The correct approach involves a systematic review of existing processes, identifying bottlenecks or inefficiencies, and proposing changes that are demonstrably beneficial and compliant. This approach is right because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of current operations and seeks improvements through evidence-based adjustments. Specifically, it aligns with the principles of good governance and operational integrity expected within a regulated environment, ensuring that any changes are robust, sustainable, and do not introduce new risks or compliance issues. This proactive and analytical method is fundamental to maintaining operational excellence and trust. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate cost reduction without considering the impact on process integrity or regulatory adherence is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to a failure to meet quality standards, potential breaches of food safety regulations, if applicable to Greg's operations, or even impact employee welfare, all of which carry significant regulatory and ethical risks. Another incorrect approach that involves implementing changes based on anecdotal evidence or without proper consultation with relevant stakeholders, e.g., operational staff, compliance officers, is also flawed. This can result in poorly designed solutions that are ineffective, disruptive, and may not achieve the desired performance improvements, potentially leading to wasted resources and a failure to address the root cause of the performance issues. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear definition of the problem or performance gap. This should be followed by data gathering and analysis to understand the root causes. Potential solutions should then be evaluated against multiple criteria, including effectiveness, efficiency, cost, feasibility, and, crucially, regulatory compliance and ethical implications. Stakeholder consultation and pilot testing of proposed changes are essential steps before full implementation. This structured approach ensures that decisions are well-informed, defensible, and aligned with the company's values and legal obligations. Question 9. The monitoring system demonstrates a pattern of potential policy breaches by a Greg's employee during their shift. Which of the following actions best aligns with Greg's commitment to fair process and regulatory compliance? Option A. Conduct a thorough, confidential investigation involving HR and the employee's line manager to verify the findings and gather further context before any action is taken. Option B. Share the monitoring system's findings with the employee's immediate colleagues to raise awareness of policy adherence. Option C. Immediately issue a formal warning to the employee based on the system's data. Option D. Disregard the monitoring system's data as it may not be entirely accurate and continue with current operational practices. The correct answer is C. Immediately issue a formal warning to the employee based on the system's data. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing operational efficiency with adherence to regulatory requirements and ethical conduct within Greg's. The monitoring system's findings, if not handled appropriately, could lead to breaches of employment law or internal policies, impacting employee morale and potentially leading to legal repercussions. Careful judgment is required to interpret the data and determine the most responsible course of action. The correct approach involves a thorough, objective investigation that respects employee privacy and due process. This means gathering all relevant facts, consulting with HR and legal departments, and ensuring any disciplinary actions are fair, consistent, and compliant with Greg's policies and relevant UK employment law, such as the Employment Rights Act 1996. This approach upholds ethical standards by treating employees with dignity and fairness, while also mitigating legal risks for the company. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement punitive measures based solely on the monitoring system's output without further investigation. This fails to acknowledge the possibility of system errors, misinterpretations, or mitigating circumstances, potentially leading to unfair dismissal or discrimination claims, which are violations of employment law. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the findings altogether. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and oversight, potentially allowing misconduct to continue unchecked, which could have broader implications for workplace safety, security, and compliance with company policies. A third incorrect approach would be to disclose the findings to colleagues not involved in the investigation. This constitutes a breach of confidentiality and could lead to a hostile work environment, violating data protection principles and potentially Greg's internal code of conduct. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the scope and limitations of the monitoring system. They should then follow a structured investigation process, which typically involves identifying the issue, gathering evidence objectively, consulting relevant stakeholders, HR, legal, interviewing affected individuals with appropriate support, considering all perspectives, and making a decision based on established policies and legal frameworks. This systematic process ensures fairness, compliance, and ethical conduct. Question 10. The assessment process reveals that candidates from certain demographic groups are consistently scoring lower on the Greg's hiring assessment test, despite having comparable qualifications and experience. What is the most appropriate next step to ensure fairness and compliance? Option A. Discontinue the use of the assessment test altogether and revert to a less structured interview process. Option B. Conduct a detailed statistical analysis of the assessment results across different demographic groups and review the assessment's design and administration for potential bias. Option C. Assume the disparities are due to inherent differences in candidate ability and proceed with the current assessment criteria. Option D. Immediately adjust the scoring thresholds for the affected demographic groups to achieve more balanced outcomes. The correct answer is B. Conduct a detailed statistical analysis of the assessment results across different demographic groups and review the assessment's design and administration for potential bias. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the need for efficiency in the hiring process with the regulatory obligation to ensure fair and non-discriminatory assessment practices. The Greg's hiring assessment test is designed to evaluate candidates objectively, and any deviation from its prescribed methodology could lead to biased outcomes, potentially violating employment law and company policy. Careful judgment is required to identify and rectify any procedural flaws that might compromise the integrity of the assessment. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the assessment data to identify any statistically significant disparities in outcomes between different demographic groups, followed by an investigation into the assessment's design and administration for potential bias. This aligns with the principles of equal opportunity and non-discrimination, which are fundamental to employment law and ethical hiring practices. Regulatory frameworks, such as those governing employment and data protection, mandate that hiring processes are fair, transparent, and free from bias. By systematically analyzing the data and the assessment's components, Greg's can ensure compliance and uphold its commitment to diversity and inclusion. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the observed disparities as random chance without further investigation. It fails to acknowledge the potential for systemic bias within the assessment itself or its administration, which could lead to discriminatory hiring practices. Ethically, it is imperative to address any signs of unfairness. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately alter the assessment criteria or scoring without understanding the root cause of the disparities. This could introduce new biases or unfairly disadvantage other groups, potentially violating the principle of merit-based selection and leading to legal challenges. Furthermore, making arbitrary changes without a systematic review undermines the validity and reliability of the assessment process. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes data-driven analysis and adherence to established procedures. This involves 1. Recognizing and acknowledging potential issues indicated by the data. 2. Investigating the root cause of any observed disparities through a systematic review of the assessment's design, content, and administration. 3. Consulting relevant internal policies and external regulatory guidance. 4. Implementing evidence-based solutions to address identified biases, ensuring that any modifications are fair, objective, and legally compliant. 5. Documenting the entire process and the rationale for any changes made. Question 11. Risk assessment procedures indicate that Greg's current in-store operational processes for inventory management and waste reduction are experiencing inefficiencies. A proposal has been put forward to streamline these processes to improve profitability. Which of the following approaches best balances the need for process optimization with regulatory compliance and ethical considerations for Greg's? Option A. Expediting the approval process for all new product launches by bypassing standard quality control checks to get them to market faster. Option B. Introducing a policy to write off a small percentage of unsold goods at the end of each day to meet waste reduction targets, regardless of their actual condition. Option C. Implementing a new inventory tracking system that provides real-time data, coupled with revised waste management protocols that focus on reducing spoilage through improved stock rotation and staff training. Option D. Aggressively reducing stock levels across all product lines to minimize holding costs, even if it leads to occasional stockouts during peak demand periods. The correct answer is C. Implementing a new inventory tracking system that provides real-time data, coupled with revised waste management protocols that focus on reducing spoilage through improved stock rotation and staff training. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because Greg's, as a publicly listed company, operates under strict regulatory scrutiny, particularly concerning financial reporting and internal controls. The pressure to meet targets, coupled with the potential for significant financial implications if targets are missed, creates an environment where ethical compromises might be considered. The core of the challenge lies in balancing business objectives with regulatory compliance and ethical conduct. Careful judgment is required to ensure that process optimization efforts do not inadvertently lead to breaches of financial regulations or misrepresentation of the company's performance. The correct approach involves a thorough review of existing processes to identify inefficiencies and areas for improvement, with a clear focus on enhancing operational effectiveness and cost control without compromising the integrity of financial reporting or customer experience. This approach aligns with the principles of good corporate governance and regulatory compliance, ensuring that any changes are sustainable, transparent, and do not create undue risk. Specifically, it adheres to the spirit of regulations that require accurate financial reporting and robust internal controls, as well as ethical considerations of fair dealing with stakeholders. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction through measures that could negatively impact product quality or customer service would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to reputational damage and potential breaches of consumer protection regulations, as well as a failure to uphold the company's brand promise. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes meeting short-term financial targets by manipulating accounting entries or delaying necessary expenditures would be a direct violation of financial reporting regulations and ethical standards, leading to severe legal and financial consequences. Furthermore, an approach that bypasses established internal control procedures in the name of speed would undermine the company's risk management framework and expose Greg's to significant operational and financial risks, potentially contravening regulatory requirements for internal control effectiveness. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes regulatory compliance and ethical considerations above all else. This involves understanding the relevant legal and regulatory landscape, assessing the potential impact of any proposed changes on financial reporting, customer satisfaction, and operational integrity, and seeking appropriate guidance or approval from senior management and legal/compliance departments when necessary. A robust risk assessment process, coupled with a commitment to transparency and accountability, is crucial for navigating such challenges effectively. Question 12. Market research demonstrates that implementing new automated ordering systems in Greg's bakeries could significantly improve efficiency and reduce waste. However, this change may impact the roles of some existing staff. Which of the following approaches best balances operational improvements with legal and ethical considerations for Greg's? Option A. Focus solely on the cost savings and waste reduction benefits of the new system, making any necessary staffing adjustments based on projected efficiency improvement without prior employee consultation. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment of the new system on all roles. Engage in open and transparent consultation with affected employees and their representatives regarding the proposed changes, and provide necessary training and support for staff adapting to new responsibilities. Option C. Introduce the new system gradually in a few pilot bakeries, observing the impact on staff without formal consultation, and then roll it out based on initial observations. Option D. Immediately implement the automated ordering system across all bakeries to capture efficiency gains as quickly as possible, informing staff of the changes once they are in effect. The correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment of the new system on all roles. Engage in open and transparent consultation with affected employees and their representatives regarding the proposed changes, and provide necessary training and support for staff adapting to new responsibilities. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for Greg's management team as they consider implementing a new process optimization strategy. The core difficulty lies in balancing the potential benefits of efficiency gains with the imperative to adhere to employment law and ethical considerations regarding employee welfare and consultation. A hasty or poorly planned implementation could lead to significant legal repercussions, damage to employee morale, and reputational harm for Greg's. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any optimization efforts are conducted responsibly and in compliance with all relevant regulations. The correct approach involves a thorough assessment of the proposed process changes, including their impact on job roles, working conditions, and employee skills. This should be followed by meaningful consultation with affected employees and their representatives, where applicable, to gather feedback and address concerns. This collaborative approach ensures that Greg's not only complies with its legal obligations under UK employment law, such as the duty to consult on significant changes, but also fosters a more positive and productive working environment. Ethical considerations also dictate that employees are treated with respect and fairness, and that their contributions are valued throughout the change process. Implementing process optimization without adequate consultation with employees is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach disregards the legal requirement for consultation on changes that could affect employment terms and conditions, potentially leading to claims of unfair dismissal or breach of contract. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of respect for employees, undermining trust, and potentially creating a climate of fear and resentment. Focusing solely on cost reduction without considering the human impact is another flawed approach. While cost efficiency is a business objective, prioritizing it above all else can lead to practices that violate employment law, such as imposing unreasonable workloads or making redundancies without proper procedures. This can result in legal challenges and damage to Greg's reputation as an employer. Adopting a top-down approach where changes are dictated without employee input, even if technically compliant with minimum legal requirements, is ethically questionable. It fails to leverage the valuable insights and practical knowledge that frontline employees possess, potentially leading to suboptimal outcomes and resistance to change. This approach misses an opportunity to build buy-in and foster a sense of shared purpose. Professionals should approach process optimization with a framework that prioritizes a balanced consideration of business objectives, legal compliance, and ethical responsibilities. This involves 1. Understanding the legal landscape, familiarizing oneself with all relevant UK employment legislation and Greg's internal policies. 2. Impact assessment, thoroughly evaluating the potential consequences of proposed changes on employees. 3. Stakeholder engagement, proactively consulting with employees and their representatives to gather feedback and address concerns. 4. Risk mitigation, identifying and planning for potential legal and ethical risks. 5. Continuous review, monitoring the implementation and impact of changes to ensure ongoing compliance and effectiveness. Question 13. The control framework reveals that the current process for reconciling petty cash expenditure at Greg's regional depots is time-consuming and has been identified as a bottleneck in the monthly financial closing. A proposal has been made to streamline this by reducing the frequency of detailed reconciliation to quarterly, with only a high-level summary submitted monthly. Which of the following approaches best adheres to the principles of process optimization while maintaining regulatory compliance and financial integrity? Option A. Bypass the detailed reconciliation altogether for monthly reporting, relying solely on the previous month's figures as a baseline for the current month's high-level summary. Option B. Implement the proposed quarterly detailed reconciliation, ensuring that monthly high-level summaries are accurate and that any significant variances are investigated and reported immediately. Option C. Proceed with the quarterly detailed reconciliation and monthly high-level summaries without any immediate further investigation of monthly variances, assuming they will be addressed during the quarterly review. Option D. Immediately implement the quarterly detailed reconciliation and monthly high-level summaries and instruct depot managers to adjust their figures to align with the expected quarterly outcome to reduce future variances. The correct answer is B. Implement the proposed quarterly detailed reconciliation, ensuring that monthly high-level summaries are accurate and that any significant variances are investigated and reported immediately. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing operational efficiency with the integrity of financial reporting, a core responsibility for any employee in a regulated environment like Greg's. The pressure to meet targets can create a temptation to overlook or expedite processes in a way that compromises accuracy. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all actions align with regulatory expectations and ethical standards. The correct approach involves a thorough review and documentation of the process optimization, ensuring that any changes do not negatively impact the accuracy or completeness of financial data. This aligns with the principles of good corporate governance and regulatory compliance, which mandate that financial records are reliable and transparent. Specifically, under UK regulations and SISI guidelines, there is a strong emphasis on maintaining accurate financial records and preventing misstatement. Any process change must be demonstrably robust and auditable, ensuring that it does not introduce new risks of error or fraud. This approach prioritizes compliance and integrity over speed. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without considering the impact on financial reporting accuracy would fail to meet regulatory requirements. For instance, bypassing standard reconciliation procedures to accelerate reporting could lead to undetected errors, which is a direct violation of the duty to maintain accurate records. Another incorrect approach, which involves making undocumented changes to financial processes, undermines transparency and auditability, making it impossible to verify the integrity of the financial data. This contravenes the principles of accountability and good record-keeping expected under UK law and professional conduct rules. A third incorrect approach, which involves relying on informal assurances from colleagues rather than verifying data independently, introduces significant risk and is not a defensible position in a regulated setting. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to uphold professional standards. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes compliance and accuracy. This involves understanding the regulatory landscape, identifying potential risks associated with any proposed change, and implementing controls to mitigate those risks. When faced with pressure to expedite, professionals should always ask, does this change compromise the accuracy or completeness of our financial reporting, and does it comply with all relevant regulations and ethical guidelines? If there is any doubt, the process should be paused, and clarification sought from relevant departments or senior management, ensuring that any optimization is achieved through compliant and robust means. Question 14. Investigation of a significant variance in projected sales figures for a new product launch at Greg's, where the initial data provided by the marketing team appears to be overly optimistic and potentially misaligned with recent market trend analysis, requires careful consideration of the next steps. Option A. Proceed with the current sales projections for the new product launch, assuming the marketing team has accounted for all relevant factors. Option B. Initiate a detailed review of the sales projection methodology, cross-referencing with market trend analysis and seeking clarification from the marketing team to understand the basis of their figures. Option C. Present the current sales projections to senior management as is, highlighting the potential for higher than expected performance without mentioning the underlying data concerns. Option D. Immediately adjust the sales projections downwards based on personal intuition about market trends, without consulting the marketing team or seeking further data. The correct answer is A. Proceed with the current sales projections for the new product launch, assuming the marketing team has accounted for all relevant factors. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because Greggs, as a publicly listed company, operates under strict regulatory scrutiny regarding its financial reporting and internal controls. Ensuring the accuracy and integrity of financial data is paramount to maintaining investor confidence and complying with legal obligations. The pressure to meet targets, even if based on incomplete or potentially misleading information, can create ethical dilemmas. A professional decision-maker must balance the immediate pressures with long-term compliance and ethical responsibilities. The correct approach involves a thorough investigation of the discrepancies, seeking clarification from the relevant departments, and escalating the issue through appropriate channels if necessary. This aligns with the principles of professional integrity and due diligence expected of employees in a regulated environment. Specifically, under UK regulations and SISI guidelines, employees have a duty to act with honesty and integrity, and to report any suspected breaches of regulations or internal policies. This proactive and investigative stance ensures that financial reporting is accurate and that any potential issues are addressed before they can lead to regulatory noncompliance or misrepresentation to stakeholders. An approach that involves accepting the figures without further inquiry, despite reservations, is professionally unacceptable. This could be construed as a failure to exercise due diligence and a potential complicity in misreporting financial information, which violates the duty of integrity and honesty. Another incorrect approach, that of immediately reporting the figures as accurate to management without understanding the root cause of the discrepancy, is also professionally unsound. This bypasses the necessary investigative steps and could lead to the dissemination of inaccurate information, potentially misleading stakeholders and regulators. It demonstrates a lack of critical thinking and a failure to uphold the responsibility to ensure data accuracy. Finally, an approach that focuses solely on meeting the target without addressing the underlying data issues, perhaps by making assumptions or adjustments without proper justification, is ethically and regulatorily problematic. This can lead to manipulated financial data, which is a serious breach of trust and regulatory requirements. Professionals should adopt a decision-making process that prioritizes accuracy, integrity, and compliance. This involves 1. Identifying the discrepancy and its potential implications. 2. Seeking clarification and gathering all relevant information. 3. Escalating concerns through established reporting lines, if the discrepancy cannot be resolved at the initial level. 4. Documenting all steps taken and communications. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, ethical, and compliant with regulatory frameworks. Question 15. Quality control measures reveal a potential bottleneck in the pastry preparation line at Greggs, leading to delays in meeting daily production targets. A team proposes a new, faster mixing technique that bypasses a traditional resting period for the dough. Which of the following actions best addresses this situation while adhering to regulatory and ethical standards for a food manufacturing company like Greggs? Option A. Inform the production team to work overtime to compensate for the bottleneck, without altering the current preparation process. Option B. Immediately implement the new mixing technique to increase throughput and meet targets, assuming the core ingredients remain the same. Option C. Focus on reducing the amount of ingredients used in each batch to speed up the overall preparation time. Option D. Conduct a thorough risk assessment and pilot test of the new mixing technique, comparing the resulting dough quality and final product characteristics against established standards and regulatory requirements before wider adoption. The correct answer is B. Immediately implement the new mixing technique to increase throughput and meet targets, assuming the core ingredients remain the same. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing efficiency gains with the fundamental obligation to maintain product quality and safety, as mandated by regulatory frameworks governing food production. The pressure to optimize processes can inadvertently lead to shortcuts that compromise these standards. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any process improvements do not negatively impact the integrity of Greggs products or customer trust. The correct approach involves a systematic review and validation of any proposed process changes, ensuring they meet all relevant food safety regulations and internal quality standards before implementation. This aligns with the principles of due diligence and responsible business practice, which are implicitly or explicitly required by food safety legislation. It demonstrates a commitment to upholding the reputation of Greggs and protecting consumer health, An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over thorough testing risks violating food safety regulations. For instance, bypassing established quality checks could lead to the distribution of substandard or unsafe products, resulting in regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and potential harm to consumers. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on quality, could similarly lead to compromised ingredients or production methods that fall short of legal and ethical requirements. A third incorrect approach, implementing changes without adequate staff training, could result in inconsistent application of new procedures, leading to quality deviations and potential noncompliance. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes regulatory compliance and ethical considerations. This involves 1. Understanding the specific legal and regulatory requirements applicable to food production. 2. Evaluating proposed process changes against these requirements and internal quality benchmarks. 3. Conducting pilot testing and validation to confirm that changes do not compromise quality or safety. 4. Ensuring adequate training and communication for all staff involved. 5. Establishing clear feedback mechanisms to monitor the ongoing effectiveness of implemented changes. Question 16. System analysis indicates that Greggs is seeking to streamline its in-store food preparation and customer service processes to improve efficiency and reduce operational costs. A key consideration is ensuring that any proposed changes do not negatively impact food safety standards or contravene current UK food hygiene regulations. Which of the following approaches best balances the objective of process optimization with the imperative of regulatory compliance and consumer safety? Option A. Revising food assembly procedures to combine multiple steps into single actions, aiming to decrease preparation time per item, without a comprehensive review of the hygiene implications of these combined steps. Option B. Reducing the frequency of deep cleaning schedules for preparation surfaces and equipment to save on staff time and cleaning supply costs, with the assumption that daily superficial cleaning is sufficient. Option C. Introducing a faster checkout system that allows customers to self-scan and pay, while simultaneously reducing the number of staff members on the front counter during peak hours. Option D. Implementing new automated equipment for food preparation that significantly reduces manual handling, coupled with a revised staff training program focused on operating the new machinery efficiently. The correct answer is D. Implementing new automated equipment for food preparation that significantly reduces manual handling, coupled with a revised staff training program focused on operating the new machinery efficiently. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in optimizing Greggs' internal processes while adhering to the strict regulatory framework governing food safety and business operations in the UK. The core difficulty lies in balancing efficiency gains with the non-negotiable requirements of food hygiene, staff training, and product quality, all of which are subject to legal and ethical obligations. A deep understanding of these regulations is paramount to avoid potential breaches that could lead to significant financial penalties, reputational damage, and, most importantly, harm to consumers. The correct approach involves a systematic review of existing workflows, identifying bottlenecks and inefficiencies, and proposing changes that demonstrably improve operational flow without compromising any aspect of food safety or regulatory compliance. This requires a proactive engagement with relevant UK food safety legislation, such as the Food Safety Act 1990 and associated regulations, as well as Greggs' own internal quality standards and training protocols. The justification for this approach is rooted in the legal duty of care Greggs has towards its customers and the ethical imperative to maintain the highest standards of food production and service. Any process optimization must be underpinned by a thorough risk assessment, ensuring that proposed changes do not introduce new hazards or dilute existing controls. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed or cost reduction above all else, potentially leading to shortcuts in food preparation, inadequate cleaning schedules, or insufficient staff training on hygiene protocols. This would directly contravene the Food Safety Act 1990, which places a legal obligation on food businesses to ensure food sold is safe to eat. Another flawed approach might involve implementing new technology or procedures without adequate consultation with staff or without ensuring they are fully trained, which could lead to errors and non-compliance with health and safety regulations. Furthermore, the optimization that bypasses established quality control checks or reduces the frequency of critical monitoring activities would be ethically questionable and legally risky, as it could compromise product integrity and consumer trust. Professionals tasked with process optimization at Greg's should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the current operational landscape and the relevant regulatory environment. This involves mapping existing processes, identifying key performance indicators, KPI, related to both efficiency and compliance, and then brainstorming potential improvements. Each proposed change must be rigorously evaluated against its potential impact on food safety, regulatory adherence, staff competency, and customer experience. A phased implementation with pilot testing and continuous monitoring is advisable, ensuring that any adjustments are made in a controlled and compliant manner. Question 17. When evaluating a batch of Greg's pasties that have been slightly misshapen during baking but are otherwise visually appealing and appear to be within their normal shelf life, what is the most appropriate course of action to ensure both product quality and operational efficiency? Option A. Sell the misshapen pasties at full price, assuming customers will not notice or mind the slight imperfection. Option B. Immediately dispose of the pasties to avoid any perception of reduced quality. Option C. Assess the pasties against Greg's internal quality and safety standards to determine if they are fit for sale, and if not, dispose of them according to company procedure. Option D. Offer the misshapen pasties at a discounted price to customers without explicit disclosure of the cosmetic defect. Correct answer is B. Immediately dispose of the pasties to avoid any perception of reduced quality. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a Greg's employee because it requires balancing operational efficiency with adherence to company policy and potentially regulatory guidelines concerning food safety and waste management. The core tension lies in deciding how to handle a situation where product quality is compromised but still potentially edible, impacting both customer satisfaction and business resources. Careful judgment is required to avoid financial loss, reputational damage, and potential health risks. The correct approach involves a thorough assessment of the product's condition against Greg's established quality and safety standards. This means consulting internal guidelines, which are designed to align with food safety regulations, to determine if the product is fit for sale or consumption. If it does not meet these standards, the appropriate action is to dispose of it according to company procedures, which would typically involve safe waste disposal to prevent any potential health hazards. This aligns with the ethical responsibility to protect public health and the regulatory expectation for food businesses to maintain high standards of hygiene and product integrity. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize immediate cost savings by attempting to sell the slightly damaged product. This fails to uphold the company's commitment to quality and customer trust. Furthermore, it could lead to customer complaints, negative reviews, and a damaged brand reputation for Greg's. Ethically, it is questionable to knowingly offer a product that may not meet expected standards, even if not overtly unsafe. Another incorrect approach would be to dispose of the product without proper consideration of company policy or potential for repurposing if applicable and safe. While disposal is the correct outcome if the product is unfit, hasty or undocumented disposal might not align with waste management protocols or inventory control procedures. A third incorrect approach would be to offer the product at a discounted price without clear communication about the defect. This can mislead customers and still lead to dissatisfaction if the perceived quality is lower than expected, even at a reduced price. It also bypasses the established quality control mechanisms. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes customer safety and company reputation. This involves 1. Understanding and applying company policies and relevant regulations. 2. Assessing the situation objectively against these standards. 3. Taking the most responsible action that protects both the customer and the business. 4. Documenting the decision and action taken if required by policy. Question 18. Quality control measures reveal a recurring inconsistency in the texture of Greg's signature sausage rolls, with some batches exhibiting a tougher pastry than others. Which of the following actions represents the most appropriate and compliant process optimization approach? Option A. Implement a new, simplified pastry recipe that prioritizes ease of production over the traditional texture profile, assuming customers will accept the change. Option B. Immediately increase the production speed of the pastry mixers and ovens to compensate for the perceived variability, aiming to meet daily output targets regardless of minor texture deviations. Option C. Initiate a comprehensive root cause analysis of the pastry texture issue, involving a review of ingredient sourcing, mixing procedures, proofing times, and oven temperatures, followed by the implementation of targeted corrective actions and subsequent validation testing. Option D. Temporarily reduce the quality control checks on pastry texture to expedite the production process, while the issue is being investigated informally by supervisors. The correct answer is C. Initiate a comprehensive root cause analysis of the pastry texture issue, involving a review of ingredient sourcing, mixing procedures, proofing times, and oven temperatures, followed by the implementation of targeted corrective actions and subsequent validation testing. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing operational efficiency with adherence to established quality standards, which are often underpinned by regulatory requirements and ethical obligations to customers. The need to address a recurring issue in Greg's pastry production without compromising product integrity or customer trust demands a systematic and compliant approach. Careful judgment is required to identify the root cause and implement sustainable solutions that align with industry best practices and any relevant food safety regulations. The correct approach involves a thorough, data-driven investigation into the root cause of the inconsistent pastry texture. This includes reviewing production logs, raw material specifications, and equipment calibration records. Implementing a corrective action plan that addresses the identified root cause, followed by rigorous retesting and monitoring, ensures that the issue is resolved effectively and sustainably. This aligns with the principles of continuous improvement and regulatory compliance, such as those found in food safety management systems, which mandate proactive identification and mitigation of risks to product quality and safety. Ethically, this approach demonstrates a commitment to delivering consistent, high-quality products to customers, upholding Greg's reputation. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate output increases without understanding the underlying problem risks masking the issue, potentially leading to a recurrence or even more significant quality degradation. This could violate implied warranties of merchantability and fitness for purpose, and in a regulated environment, could be seen as a failure to maintain adequate quality control, potentially contravening food safety legislation that requires products to be of satisfactory quality and safe to consume. Another incorrect approach that involves bypassing established quality checks to meet production targets is ethically unsound and regulatorily risky. It prioritizes short-term gains over long-term product integrity and customer satisfaction, potentially leading to a decline in brand reputation and customer loyalty. Such actions could also be interpreted as a deliberate disregard for quality assurance protocols, which are often a requirement for regulatory compliance and good business practice. A further incorrect approach that involves blaming individual staff members without a systemic investigation fails to address the root cause and can foster a negative work environment. This overlooks the possibility that the issue stems from process, equipment, or training deficiencies, which are the responsibility of management to identify and rectify. Ethically, it is unfair to individuals, and regulatorily, it demonstrates a lack of robust quality management systems. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured problem-solving methodology. This begins with clearly defining the problem and its impact. Next, gather all relevant data and information to identify potential root causes. Evaluate these causes against established standards and regulatory requirements. Develop and implement a corrective action plan, ensuring it is tested and validated. Finally, monitor the effectiveness of the implemented solution and embed lessons learned into ongoing processes. This systematic, evidence-based approach ensures that decisions are not only effective, but also compliant and ethically sound. Question 19. Analysis of potential process optimization initiatives at Greg's, a retail food business, requires careful consideration of how changes might affect operational efficiency and staff welfare. Which of the following approaches best balances the pursuit of improved productivity with adherence to UK employment law and ethical business practices? Option A. Automating inventory management through a new software solution that significantly reduces the need for manual stock checks, allowing existing staff to focus on customer-facing activities, but without a comprehensive data protection impact assessment for the new system. Option B. Introducing a new performance monitoring system that tracks individual staff productivity in real time, with the primary goal of identifying underperforming employees for immediate disciplinary action to boost overall output. Option C. Implementing a new digital ordering system that streamlines customer service and reduces order errors, coupled with a review of staff rostering to ensure optimal coverage during peak hours, while ensuring all staff receive adequate training on the new system and their contractual hours and breaks remain compliant with working time regulations. Option D. Redesigning the kitchen workflow to eliminate redundant steps, potentially by reassigning tasks to fewer staff members during off-peak periods, without formal consultation with affected employees regarding their roles or hours. The correct answer is C. Implementing a new digital ordering system that streamlines customer service and reduces order errors, coupled with a review of staff rostering to ensure optimal coverage during peak hours, while ensuring all staff receive adequate training on the new system and their contractual hours and breaks remain compliant with working time regulations. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing operational efficiency with adherence to regulatory requirements and ethical considerations within the context of Greg's business operations. The core difficulty lies in identifying and implementing process improvements that do not inadvertently lead to breaches of employment law or compromise the fair treatment of staff, which are paramount in the UK regulatory framework governing employment and business practices. The correct approach involves a systematic review of existing processes, focusing on identifying bottlenecks and inefficiencies that can be addressed through revised workflows, technology adoption, or staff training, all while ensuring compliance with UK employment legislation such as the Employment Rights Act 1996 and relevant health and safety executive guidelines. This approach prioritizes a thorough understanding of current operations and potential impacts on staff, seeking solutions that enhance productivity without negatively affecting employee rights, working conditions, or data privacy, as mandated by regulations like the GDPR. It demonstrates a commitment to responsible business conduct and regulatory adherence. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on staff working hours or contractual obligations would be ethically and regulatorily unsound. For instance, implementing a new scheduling system that unilaterally reduces staff breaks or increases mandatory overtime without proper consultation or adherence to working time regulations 1998 would be a clear violation. Similarly, an approach that prioritizes speed of implementation over thorough risk assessment, potentially leading to data security vulnerabilities or inadequate training on new procedures, would contravene data protection laws and health and safety obligations. Another incorrect approach might involve bypassing established consultation procedures with employee representatives or unions, which could breach employment law and undermine good industrial relations. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the objectives, followed by a comprehensive assessment of potential impacts on all stakeholders, including employees. This involves consulting relevant legislation, internal policies, and, where appropriate, seeking legal or HR advice. A robust process optimization strategy should include pilot testing, impact assessments, and clear communication plans, ensuring that any changes are implemented in a compliant, ethical, and sustainable manner that respects the rights and well-being of Greg's employees. Question 20. The efficiency study reveals that Greg's current stock management system in a specific bakery branch is leading to significant waste. A proposed new system, developed by the bakery manager, promises to reduce waste by 15% through more granular tracking of ingredient usage. However, this new system requires staff to log every ingredient used for each individual product baked, significant increase in their daily administrative tasks. Which of the following approaches best balances the need for efficiency with regulatory and ethical considerations for Greg's? Option A. Implement the new stock management system immediately to capture the potential waste reduction benefits, with a follow-up review after 3 months. Option B. Authorize the bakery manager to proceed with the new system, assuming their assessment of waste reduction is accurate, and instruct staff to adapt to the new logging requirements. Option C. Focus on reducing waste through stricter supplier negotiations and bulk purchasing, as this is a more direct cost-saving measure and avoids increasing staff workload. Option D. Conduct a pilot of the new system in a few branches, gathering feedback from staff and assessing its impact on accuracy and workload before a wider rollout. The correct answer is A. Implement the new stock management system immediately to capture the potential waste reduction benefits, with a follow-up review after 3 months. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing operational improvements with adherence to established company policies and regulatory guidelines, specifically those pertaining to employee welfare and data handling within the UK regulatory framework relevant to Greg's. The need for efficiency must not compromise the integrity of data collection or the fair treatment of staff. The correct approach involves a systematic review and validation of the proposed process changes by the relevant internal departments, ensuring compliance with Greg's internal policies and any applicable UK employment law or data protection regulations, e.g., GDPR, as implemented in the UK. This ensures that efficiency gains are achieved ethically and legally, without creating new risks or violating employee rights. It prioritizes a controlled and compliant implementation. An incorrect approach that bypasses formal review processes and directly implements changes based on a single department's findings risks violating data protection principles by potentially mishandling employee performance data. It also fails to ensure that the proposed changes align with broader company policies or legal obligations, potentially leading to disputes or noncompliance. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on employee morale or the accuracy of the data collected overlooks the ethical imperative to treat employees fairly and maintain reliable operational metrics. This can lead to decreased productivity in the long run and potential breaches of employment standards. Finally, an approach that prioritizes speed of implementation over thoroughness and compliance introduces significant risks. It might overlook critical regulatory requirements or internal controls, leading to potential legal challenges, reputational damage, and a failure to achieve sustainable efficiency. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the core objective efficiency, then assesses potential solutions against established policies, regulatory requirements, and ethical considerations. This involves consulting relevant stakeholders, conducting impact assessments, and ensuring all proposed changes are documented and approved through appropriate channels before implementation.